So Bruce, since we've met, I've been realizing how just the simple, so-called simple process of holding a stick is actually a real fine art that involves a lot of knowledge, insights, and I understand now, realize now that if the hand is not properly set up and the stick is not in a good relationship with the hand, all of this, natural, what they call it nowadays, or fluid, body motion and using the anatomy is not real possible. So the first question I would have to ask you would be, how do you start? Because, now that I know more things, I realize that most people, regardless of the level of musicianship or musical experience, don't have a proper setup of the hand.
Yeah, that's a good question. And the setup requires many different details, but some finer points to think about is that, the dexterity and the movement of the hand is very intricate, and the subtleties and the muscular subtleties that you can experience can be enhanced by certain setups. So, and these setups are definitely out of context, as you know, because if I set them up out of context, they're going to be an eye into what is possible, but it may be not getting the full result or the benefit right away, because there is a procedural point or a procedural way to put things together. But some of the things to address are, that I think are valuable to get the hand to move are in French grip to be able to squeeze that stick in and add a certain amount of tension and resistance with your pinky finger to add some strength back here. The also to note is the flexibility and the stability and the press in from the base of the thumb, not just the thumb tip, but all the way in, to kind of enhance that push and resistance to strengthen some of the hand. Now, some guys may not think that's important, but when you're talking about some more detailed things that you may want to execute, this can be very, what do I want to say, revealing as to what one can do with the stick in ways that maybe you never considered or never experienced.
So would I say, excuse me, Mr. Rob, would you say it's correct to if I was going to say that this is a way to start to develop a grip, no matter what you're playing, right?
Sure, yeah. And the grip, if you go from French to German, there's a continuity. There's nothing really different about it other than the fact that in French grip, I'm going to use my elbow as a support system. And of course, when you know the rules, once you know the rules, you can subtly break them and do things a little bit different. But in establishing a firm understanding of what those things are, it requires that really good, clear understanding by setting everything up in the best way to achieve the result. So in this regard, my elbow is out in French grip, and my back three fingers are slightly curled to accept the stick. Also for motivation of the stick, if I'm going to play fingers, I can't cradle the stick, and I don't want to squeeze the stick in this fashion because I'm not going to get anywhere with any kind of singles. And when I switch over to German grip, as I drop my elbow a little bit, I just round my fingers out and contour the stick with my palm down, and the stick still is sitting between that last joint of my index finger and my thumb. And the position of the thumb, whether I'm in French grip or German grip, that position of the thumb is still a constant and sort of a stable post for me to lean against or to push against, and also creating that channel of acoustic resonance that we're after for the resonant quality of the stick. Again, for some people, as you know, it's not that important. Some people don't really give that much consideration. But for other guys, it's very valuable, it's very important. So, but I think that can enhance at least the placement of the grip. The placement is what's important. And then you can spur it along to get it to grow by doing many different exercises, as you know, to like really get it to just be what it is. Just there it is, there it is, there it is. And it works also in traditional grip because in a similar sense, I've got that same bond between my thumb and my index finger with the thumb in to assist me in developing some placement for how I'm going to house the stick in traditional grip as well.
So what you're saying is that basically once you have that position and the thumb being and everything like that, this is basically the same position no matter what angle you look at.
Yeah.
It's kind of looking at it from different angles.
Exactly.
Right?
It's just basically taking the same idea but just housing it. If you have a flexible arm and your wrist and your elbow and your forearm are all flexible and have some elasticity to move around in those positions, you can use the French grip for certain positions and the German grip. And my whole concept behind that is to have an arc of technique that clearly runs the gamut from, you know, palms down to thumbs up without any hitch, with a smooth transition from whatever approach I need because of the nature of the instrument. I want to be able to get around to different parts of the instrument, and I may not feel so comfortable French on the snare drum, and I may. Depends on. Each student has a opportunity to experience what the difference is, and then you get a better chance to lock into what feels good for you. That good old saying of what's the difference if you don't know the difference. If you can experience the difference, you'll be able to make a better call what works best for you. If you want to be here, if you want to be here, you want to be here, here, whatever it is, position-wise on the drum set. And you don't need to feel like you run yourself into a wall for pushing the stick around.
And also, I like to ask you, you know, regarding grip and position. I think there's a lot of, even I had a lot of, confusion regarding this. You know, how many people refer to the balance point as being the, you know, this in the German grip or this in the French grip. What would you say about that? Well, actually, if you can define for me what you really mean when you say grip, what you mean when you say balance point.
Okay. Well, you know, you have a pivot point, which is going to be this, which is your index finger and your thumb. When you drop the stick into a French grip, you're clearly being balanced out over that last joint of the index finger, because that's the last point of balance. You do use your back three fingers as a sort of a shock absorber to the bounce of the stick. Are they a balance point? Not necessarily. When you switch over to German grip, you kind of, now you could say you have a trio of your grip in harmony with your middle finger as some reference point of balance, so that when I work from the German grip and I'm setting up a simple balance exercise to experience where the balance is, well, now it is primarily over that middle finger, but it's working in tandem with that index finger and thumb. And it also can be excluded from the necessity to be a balance point, where you could use from the grip to your pinky finger and over your ring finger as a place of holding the stick, and then the balance is shifted to somewhere inside the hand, and that's a different form of a balance point if you're doing something like this. Now I can keep my middle finger off just to demonstrate the point. I feel the shift from the back side to the front side and use it as a pivot point from there. So what is it now? Now it's in the back part of the hand too. That's an element to consider. So it kind of shifts depending upon what you're doing. And if you can, again, kind of just follow through some sort of a path to lead you there, you know, the back two fingers, if you've ever seen Tony Williams, he's coming from back here.
Yeah.
And that can be very helpful to certain things, to driving the stick or making it have a certain amount of fluidity and clarity and articulation to the bounce of the stick, if that's what you're looking for. And again, we're talking about it. It's almost like we're trying to put the words to explain what it is, but it's really about a feel and an experience rather than a conversation. But, of course, when you're trying to pass that along to students, you have to find the best way to articulate those things to bring it to a place of them to feel that. But, you know, balance point would be sort of, you know, the trinity, the three, and then here mostly the index finger, but not to negate the opportunity to include your back two fingers or your back three fingers depending upon what you're doing for balance. But the pivot point is always going to be centered around that. And that's the continuity of everything, is that pivot point.
So that's